Hi, Oscar. Really appreciate you creating time. I know you are busy, so thank you for coming.
Thank you, Gladys. I'm very glad to be here with you in a different channel, in a very interesting channel that I know that you give a lot of good advice to people and motivating people. So keep up that good work, and I'm glad to be here in one of your episodes.
Thank you for the kind compliments, and I think I would say exactly the same thing about what you're doing. And we are going to discuss mostly, so guys, today we are talking about employment-based green card to work in the US, mostly EB1 and EB2. The categories that we'll focus on. So Oscar will tell us his own journey to getting an EB green card, and then maybe some tips and tricks on how you can stand out if you are going to petition or start petitioning. And then he will tell us about his amazing YouTube channel. We were just chatting about 200 plus videos he's created so far. So if you are considering this kind of green card category, definitely at the end, I'll redirect you to Oscar's channel to learn more. So Oscar, tell us who you are, mostly focusing on your field of work. Like, where did you study? What did you study? And I know you are a scientist, so what do you research?
Yeah, no, thanks. So, who is Oscar? Well, I'm a scientist. I studied chemical engineering originally in Spain. I come from Spain, the northwest of Spain, a place called Galicia. And I studied chemical engineering, bachelor plus masters. And during chemical engineering, I didn't really know what I wanted to really do with that. Like many of us, I know many engineering students are in the same boat. Like, you're lost half of the time. I don't know what I'm going to do with this. And as the years were progressing, I realized that what I really wanted to do was something related to either renewable energy sustainability, something green, something that could help the world be a little bit better and progress in the way that I consider to be the right way. I knew I didn't want to do certain things like oil and gas and that kind of stuff. Very respectful fields, but that was not my interest. So I started looking into things that I could do after I got my degree. And because in Europe also it was a really bad time when I finished my degree. It was after the economic crisis, the unemployment rate was really high. And so I started expanding my job search area up to the point that I was looking everywhere in the world. And I ended up going for an exchange program in Utah, in the University of Utah in Salt Lake City. And that's the time where I started doing research, and I started doing research on biofuels, which really aligned with what I thought I wanted to do. And actually that was a defining moment, because I came into contact with research which I didn't really know, and I really like it. And then the topic, I also like it. I work with bacteria at that time that they fed on gas. They were really weird bacteria. They fed on gas and they produced biofuels. So it was a very niche biotechnology field, and it remains very niche to this day. But later I changed. From Utah, I moved to Oklahoma. In Oklahoma, I ended up doing a PhD. I stayed there for 4 years, and I kept doing research, kept working on biofuels, but moved also to different areas of biotechnology. I graduated with a PhD, and eventually I moved to the Boston area, where I was hired by a private company. And I saw the transition from doing research in a public institution, a university, versus doing research for a for-profit company, which there's a lot of fun differences and things that I was not aware of, but I learned a lot in that company. That company is GreenCard Biosciences, still there, still working. And that company was not about biofuels, it was biotechnology. It was about making sustainable, biodegradable pesticides for example, potatoes and stuff like that we need to feed the humankind, and we need to do it sustainable, and we need to reduce the amount of chemicals that we put in the fields. Eventually they go back to us. So this company had a really nice mission. They were making biopesticides with RNA, and I became a scientist there to develop their processes. So I really work on the process development side of things. So that, sorry for the long speech, but that, in a nutshell, that's who I am.
No, I love it. I love it, and you summarized it really well. And I think anyone who is
Yeah.
not even in that field would understand. So thank you for that brief introduction of who you are and what you do as a scientist. And the reason why I asked is because I know for the employment-based, the EB category we're talking about, it attracts like all sorts of people. And I think you will tell us, because I know you posted people who share stories of how their field and how they applied through lawyers or just self-petitioning and all that. So let's just go to... I'm very curious to know, how did you know about EB? Because it's very interesting when you ask people, like, how did you know? Some people have no clue. I did not have any idea. Like I was telling you, most of my friends, even myself, I knew that if you wanted to immigrate to the US or to get a green card, you needed either to be a nurse and get EB3. I think many people know about nursing opportunities in the US, or you get a DV, the lottery system, or you get married to a US citizen or a permanent resident. So I did not know about the employment type, where if you have a bachelor's degree and some experience, or you have master's, or you have a PhD or any advanced degree, you can still get a green card. So let's take us through your journey, because I understand there are like broad categories in terms of application, USCIS, NBC, and all that. So just take us through. Number one, how did you know about this thing? And then just generally, like, how did you apply? Did you get an attorney? Did you self-petition? And maybe if you still remember some timelines, like you put in petition around this time, you got all that. So, Mike, you take the mic. So walk us through the process.
Because I keep going. This is a topic that I can
but please
talk about for hours. Okay, so let me start with one of your first questions, which is, how did I come to know this? Well, to answer that, first we need to talk about something that a lot of immigrants in the US face, which is not really understanding the immigration system in the US. Even when I went there with a non-immigrant visa, initially I was on a J visa, which is for scholars and exchange students and stuff like that. I was not aware at all about the complexities of the American system and the difficulty that you have, even when you are there with a visa, to stay, even when your institution, be it an academic institution or a private company, even when they want you to stay, a lot of times there's a lot of barriers for that to happen. Even if you are highly accomplished, no matter if you are like, and I'm not saying I am, but no matter if you are like at top of your field, no one will give you a visa or even a green card for sure, just because, like you have to go through a process. You have to understand the system, you need to know your options and you need to pursue them. Okay, so that's the first thing that I came to know very quickly. How did I know about these EB green cards? Well, because in that process of the first few years, you work, especially if you work in research, you work with people from India, people from all around Europe, Africa, really anywhere in the world. That's one of the positives of being in the US, that you are in contact with a lot of different people. And from the people that have been there longer, what they are going through in terms of finding the way of staying whenever that person wants to stay. And so I started hearing things about, Visa Bulletin and the EB1, EB2, this type of visa, this other type of visa. So you just start hearing these things, but at the beginning, it doesn't really hit you as this is really important for me. It's like, oh, well, they are worrying about that. I'm sure I won't have those problems. But then you find out, yes, everyone will have those problems. So I quickly met these people that they were pursuing an EB2 NAW and EB1A. So I started asking questions, and that's how I learned, okay, instead of jumping from one non-immigrant visa to another, which is the typical path, going from a student visa, an F visa, to a working visa, an H-1B visa, and then trying to get a green card, you can actually skip all of that if you look directly at EB2 NAW, National Interest Waiver, or EB1A, which is the highest category. And these are not non-immigrant visas, these are immigrant visas, green cards, which means that if you get one of these, you can be in the US pretty much forever, as long as you fulfill a few requirements that are pretty easy to fulfill once you get that green card. Okay, so you basically, that's the moment, if you get that, that's the moment where you can relax, you can jump from one job to another, which you cannot do in a regular visa. You can even be unemployed for a while, and that's fine, you know, which you cannot do in a visa. You have all these sorts of rules that apply to you. So, okay, I thought I need to really pay attention to this, and I really need to start working on that. And that's how I started looking at EB2NAW, EB1A, and so I actually did both of those. Why do I keep talking about these two categories? Because in the green card space, there are, like you mentioned, EB1, EB2, EB3, EB4, EB5. There are a lot of categories for different profiles. But these two, EB1A and EB2NAW, those you can self-petition, okay? And that means that you don't need a company sponsoring you. You don't need a job offer. Even if you are employed, they don't have to do that process for you. You don't depend on that company. You depend on yourself, and that's what I like. And second thing is you can do it without a lawyer if you know how, and that's what I do now. I teach people how to do it. So in essence, those are the big points for these two green cards. Permanent residency, you can do it without a job offer, and you can do it even without a lawyer, which they charge a lot of money. I don't know where you want to take this conversation to now. Timelines?
Yes, Oscar. Thank you for breaking that down. Amazing. Yes, let's your own. If you don't mind sharing your own journey, take us through. Did you self-petition? Did you use a lawyer? And then just timelines. Like when did you submit the petition? And then you will tell us later some tips on how to strengthen your petition, etc. But yes, take us through your own journey.
And profiles also, because each category has a different standard. So actually, maybe we can start there.
Yes.
Let's talk about the difference between EB2NAW and EB1A for a second. EB2NAW, let's say EB2NAW is here in terms of standards, and EB1A is here. Okay, so EB1A is the highest standard, is the one that will have less wait time. Later we'll talk about the processing times and all that. But EB1A is the quickest one, but it's also the hardest one to get. So in order to be in an EB1 category, you have to prove that you are a person that is at the top of your field. You are one of the few percentage at the top of the field. So naturally, that's not very easy for a lot of people, but there are profiles out there that can fulfill that. And I'm not talking about senior people, even like younger professionals, they can do it, because all you have to do is to prove you are at the top of the field compared to others in a similar position, okay? They are not going to judge you against someone that has 40 years of experience, okay? But you do need to have some achievements. For example, there are 10 criteria you have to fulfill. 3 criteria like having publications, having been cited by others, having contributed to your field in an original way, having some invention or something that you did to advance your field, or having appeared in media outlets, or having a salary that is way higher than everyone else in your field. There are a few criteria that you can look at and say, okay, I think I can fulfill 4 of these, so I can give EB1 a try, okay? But yeah, you have to be at the top. But then we have EB2NAW, which is a little bit lower. And in EB2NAW, what is most important, you do have to have some profile, but what is most important is that you have a project that you will present to the USCIS officer. USCIS is the agency that grants the green card. And you have to show, okay, this is my mission in the United States. I'm going to help you with this problem. You guys have this problem. For example, in my case, I'm someone in biotechnology. So I propose, it's called a proposed endeavor, that mission. My proposed endeavor was continuing my research on developing novel processes to produce biopesticides, which will be sustainable, they will reduce chemicals and all that. So I will help the US to have better food, to have more sustainable techniques, and you have to tell that story with proof and with good arguments. And that's the central part. And then, of course, you have to have some credentials to also prove that you are the right person to do that job. But the level of standard is not the same. Now, in EB2 NAW is more open to a lot of people that even they are not doing research, people that may be working in the industry, and they still can prove that they have done things that have been impactful for others. So I don't know if the difference is more or less clear. What do you think?
It is very clear, and then I know they have like lots of stories and guidelines on their website. Mm-hmm. So I'll just put the links here on the description box so that people can read more. But I like the way you've broken it down.
Yeah. Cool. And a misconception out there is that you need to have a PhD for any of these two categories, and that's not true. Like you said earlier, for EB2 NAW, for example, you do need to prove certain level of education, but that is either a PhD or a master that would already qualify you automatically. Then you have to prove that you have that professional mission and all that. But the educational level with a master is okay. And even with a bachelor, as long as you have 5 years of post-graduation experience, you have to show that, and then you can, again, qualify. And even without that, there's a route called exceptional ability, where even without a bachelor, you can still qualify if you have done things that are exceptional. So that's why this has become so attractive for so many professionals in different fields, okay? And so, speaking about my own experience, I did both an EB1 and an EB2 NAW at the time where I was in Greenlight Biosciences. They actually supported my EB1, so I did the EB1 with lawyers, and that's how I actually came to know EB2 NAW so well, because I was doing EB1 with them, and I was really frustrated with my lawyers that the company hired, because they were very slow. And when you hire lawyers also, you have to prepare a lot of materials for them, because they are not in your field, they don't know what you have done, they don't know the impact that you can create, so you have to write everything for them, so then they can take and put that into the final package. But you are going to have to spend a lot of hours. So I was spending a lot of hours, they were not fast, and I was frustrated. And so I learned about, okay, EB2 NAW, there's a lot of overlap in the way you write things, the way you argue. So I said, look, while they do that, I'm going to take all that I already prepared, all my hours of work, and I'm going to just deliver my EB2 NAW by myself, without them, without the company, using a lot of the same evidence, put it together and send it. And so we submitted both. Actually, I submitted mine first, which was funny, and then I got 2 approvals. And then I have to choose one. I chose the one from the company, because they were paying for the rest of the process. But at least I had my own process. I was having my plan B, and that's always good, to not depend on a particular company. Even if you are in good terms with the company, you never know what's going to happen. So it's always good to have your own process because of that. And the timeline was pretty fast, but later we can talk about how that has changed a little bit, because at the time there was no wait time almost in either of these categories. And so basically, I waited 1 year for the I-140 to be processed by USCIS. Then, in my case, there are 2 steps. The I-140 step, that's the step where you submit the package with all the arguments, and that's the really difficult step. And once you complete that part, then you have to go through either adjustment of status. If you are in the US, you have your non-immigrant status, and you have to change to a green card. You can do it inside the US, that's called adjustment of status. But if you are abroad, you can still do it, and it's called consular processing, and it's done through the National Visa Center. That second part took another year, And so in about 2 years, I had the green card on hand, basically.
Okay. And I know because watching your videos, I feel like you've been or I don't know, is it this demystifying? Like it's not really such a, I mean, it can be a lot of work, but it's something you can self-petition. So how do you normally advise prospective applicants? Should they go with a lawyer, or is it something they can self-petition?
So I'm a proponent of do-it-yourself. That's what I do in the YouTube channel. But I'm not against lawyers, of course. There are different types of profiles out there, different. Yeah, no, we are all different. You know, some people are good at writing, for example. Some people really hate it, and they claim they are unable. I challenge that most of the times. But you know, if you really don't have any time and you don't want to put a lot of effort, even though you have to put some effort even with the lawyers, maybe you are a profile that would need to have a lawyer. If you are someone that is used to writing, and for example, if you write publications or manuscripts or anything, or even if you are not a researcher but you are used to writing, you will have no problem doing this, because this is similar to other things you have done. So, you know, we have courses where we teach people how to do this, and I have seen people of all profiles: scientists, business people, people working in agriculture, people working in cybersecurity, a lot of IT people, and you know, all these different profiles were able to put together their packages and submit it. It is a lot of effort. No matter if you use a lawyer or not, you need to count with a lot of hours that you are going to put in this project. But this is also a very important project for your life. So in life, you know, important things usually they come at a cost, right? Now, this is a cost of effort. If you go with a lawyer, it's a cost of effort plus money, because lawyers will charge you anywhere from $5,000 to $20,000 for an application, and plus the USCIS fees, which they are also pretty substantial. The first step of the process will cost you over $1,000 already, and that's something you cannot avoid even if you do it yourself. So what route is better? You need to decide. You know, I am very careful with that, not to say, okay, no, everyone should do it yourself or you should have a lawyer. No, you have to look at this and then take an informed decision based on your financial situation, your time, your capabilities as a person. You know, there's a lot of factors.
Yeah, truly. Certainly. That makes sense. Now that you talk about what you offer, maybe we can loop in your platform, your YouTube channel, and the services that you provide, so that whoever wants to do self-petitioning, I feel like that should be the first stop they should come.
Yeah.
Before if they because I feel like you have lots of good resources there.
Yeah, especially if you want to do it yourself. But even if you are a person that is hearing this for the first time and you just want to have some information, and then later you'll decide if you want to do it or you want to do it with lawyer or not, we do have a lot of free resources. We have the YouTube channel, Oscar's Greencard, where we post a lot of videos. We have playlists with, you know, the basics of EB2 and AW, the basics of EB1, so people can get in there and really understand what is this all of this about. They can go to our websites, eb2naw.info, eb1greencard.info. We have written stuff there if someone prefers not to go through hours of video, and that would be the starting point to really familiarize yourself with this, assess your own profile, because I don't evaluate your profile, even though I get a lot of emails from people. I am careful not to do that. That's your place. You have to do that, and so you need to really spend a few hours understanding what these two categories are, which one is better for you, and then you can take a decision. Okay, I'm going to do it. And at that point, if you want to do it yourself, then yeah, you need to. You can either go somewhere else. I don't want to keep this looks like an advertising. But we do have these courses where, now these are paid courses, but this is a course where you get in, and for 1 year you have access, and we have a lot of lessons. I think now we have 50 or 60 lessons where we go through each part of all the documents that you need to submit, so you learn how to do it effectively with examples, with the ability of asking questions, with live sessions. Once a month we do a live session. And so even though I'm not going to be there to, hold your hand, because I'm not in the business of doing that, I'm not a lawyer, I'm going to put a lot of resources. So if you're a person that has the interest and you want to put the effort on this, you will have everything you need, all the tools you need to start writing by yourself and complete the process.
For sure. Do you mind sharing the roughly how much these courses cost?
Yeah. So
yes.
Right now so we have the EB1A course that costs right now $219, and we have the EB2 I think is $249. It's a little bit more expensive because we do the live sessions every month. We don't do that for EB1 yet, at least. And also we have options for people to split the cost into 2 installments if that works better for them. But is it expensive? Well, that's something that everyone needs to assess. Okay, if you compare it with what a lawyer would charge, it's incredibly cheap. If you compare it with a coffee, it's very expensive. It really depends how you value things. But I truly think we have priced these courses in a way that most people can afford them, and the objective is to reach as many people as we can and not leave people outside of this possibility of getting a green card if they really have the merits to do it. I think that lawyers are fine, but not everyone can spend $10,000 or $15,000. Remember also that you don't have a guarantee, that you will be approved. And that's something that is also important to point out, that these processes are discretional in nature. So they are subjective, in other words. There are certain things that are more objective, like the education levels that we talked about, PhD, master, bachelor plus 5 years. That's the easy part. It's very clear. But then you have all of these talking about the proposed endeavor. Is the proposed endeavor nationally important? All those things. There's a lot of subjectivity to it. And no one is guaranteeing an approval, even if you hire a lawyer. Some lawyers will offer you a refund, maybe, of their fees if you get a denial. Those will be also very picky in who they accept as customer, obviously. So I think we are doing a decent job at having a very good resource that is low cost, as low as possible.
No, certainly. And talking about lawyers, do you have any advice? I don't know if it's advice or any tips in case someone is considering they don't have time and maybe they have money. They just want to leave that to the lawyers.
Yeah.
Or of course there will be some part of things that you'll need to do on your own. But then the lawyers will kind of carry most heavy lifting and all that. Where do they find because I know there are scammers all over, but where do you advise them to consider checking some options, law firms or attorneys or lawyers?
So Gladys, that's a really good point, what you said about scammers. In the last 2 years, the EB2 especially EB2 became really, really popular, and there's a lot of scams out there. So you have to be very careful with who you pay to, and make sure that when you go through a list of lawyers or you are deciding who you go with, make sure that you are the one approaching them through their official websites and not someone that writes to you on Instagram or Facebook or something like that, because I've seen fake profiles impersonating popular lawyers also. So and then we have a lot of consultants that you don't really know who they are and all that, but those are easily spotted, okay? But then we have people impersonating other lawyers. we don't recommend specific lawyers because of many reasons. Because I don't want to recommend something that I don't have direct experience on, but we do have 1 or 2 videos talking about lawyers that people can go and we list a few of the popular ones and we talk about their prices also. So that's a good way of having a good first impression. The only ones that I don't hesitate to say, these guys are pretty good because I've seen their work, is these lawyers called, they have many names, but it's not a scam. Chen, the other name they go about is WeGreened.com, and they have another name. They have 3 names, but they are this legal office that was founded by Victoria Chen. That's why Chen is the name. And they are very good. They are not very expensive, but there's always a but. They are specialized in mostly academic profiles, people that do research, people with publications, citations, and all of that. So many people will not be able to get their services because they will reject them because they don't fulfill this kind of profile. Those that lawyer I really like. Everyone else, you have to ask the right questions, about cost, about timelines. That's very important. How fast are they? Can you approach them by email, and how fast they reply to the emails? Try to find opinions from other people. Anything that you would do with a big purchase, you need to really find the right information about the office.
Definitely. Yes, and I think we'll redirect them to come and watch that video and see the lawyers that you guys talked about. But again, I think I also like, I think it's just good to be aware and be careful on the social media with the scammers and all that. Yes, so let's talk about Oscar, that because we are now talking about your YouTube channel, and I really like your approach. Because I really like, and actually I think it's the approach that I have on my channel here, because I have my own stories, but I just like to hear other people's stories, and literally you don't even have to tell someone you pick this lesson or that and that. Like, they just listen to the story and they learn a lot from the story. So I really like that that you bring people occasionally to like share their journeys. So now, because you've interviewed, I don't know how many people you've interviewed. So talk about while you are interviewing them, or even when you went through the process, and I know there was a reason why you, like you mentioned, you decided to do it on your own, kind of just to save time and to shorten the process. So what are some of the mistakes? I don't know, maybe 3 mistakes or 5 mistakes that people make, or things that you've learned from your journey, or while interviewing other people, the mistakes that they made, that any prospective person listening to this who wants to try can avoid.
Yeah. So I think the first mistake, which is also, I'm going to frame this as a mistake, but it's really advice that I was telling you earlier before we started recording, is starting too late. I'm approached by people all the time saying, Oscar, I only have like 1 month of my visa valid, and then I'm going to have to pack my things and leave the country. I need this EB2 NAW, I need this EB1. I'm like, well, now it's too late. These things, they have a process. And by the way, EB2 NAW, later we can talk about it if you want, it's getting slower. So it's not something that will be given to you in a matter of days or a month, okay? So mistake number 1 is probably you need to start working on this earlier than what you think you should, okay? That's number 1. Number 2 is when it comes to writing, once you have decided, okay, I want to do this, I'm going to write this petition, is, okay, especially people that don't follow the course and they are a little bit, lost, they tend to write too much, and I see that especially with academics, because they are used to writing, thesis and stuff like that. They want to educate the officer in their niche, in their field, and it's not about it's not about writing a book. It's almost a marketing thing where you have to condense and distill the most important pieces of evidence and present them efficiently and effectively. So you want to make the officer's life easy. You don't want this person to be bored and be like, oh my god, I want to burn this petition because I'm so done with it. No, you want them to go through it and say, okay, he has this, he has that, he fulfills this, fulfill that, good evidence, done. 20 pages, done. Okay. Now, if you give me 100 pages, I'm going to be like, oh my god, because we do a lot of we do reviews for people where we review their petition before they send it, and I tell them, if I hated this, imagine the officer, that has like 10 of these every day. It's you have to help them. So that's probably the biggest mistake. Then another writing mistake is, now we are in the AI times, right? Where a lot of things are very, very useful. These ChatGPT and other tools, they are very useful. We can definitely use them to help us with writing, but you have to be the owner of AI. ChatGPT will not do the work for you. You are really the brains in the room. ChatGPT is the tool. So when you let ChatGPT write, the mistake number 2 happens. You will write really long texts, really boring, words repeating themselves, and things that really become super tedious. So that's probably one of the biggest one. I don't know. I could continue, but I think those 3 are probably the biggest ones we see.
Certainly. I like especially the too much writing. Yeah, we do like to write a lot. People say, someone was saying, scientists write boring. Like,
yeah.
you read the publication and it's just like boring. Like, it should be punchy and whatever. But I think I get
and too technical also. We are too technical.
Too technical.
Yeah.
Too technical. I think I can see that.
When you sit down, Gladys, when you do it, you sit down and you will need to explain this to a person. Think about it as, I'm explaining this to my uncle or to my mom or whoever in your family that is not a mechanical engineer. So they need to understand what you are writing. And actually, that's what I tell people is, okay, take this, give it to your relative and ask them, can you explain it back to me? If they can't, you have to go back and rewrite because you did it wrong.
That is a good strategy.
Yeah.
I really like that strategy. Okay, thank you for sharing that. Let's talk about, you mentioned that there is a lot of, I've heard people complaining about timelines, and I've had this thing called bulletin.
Yeah.
Talk about that, like for any perspective. So someone was saying they made a mistake and I don't think they factored in how long it takes and all that, and it kind of just messed with their family. They have kids, they have a partner, and it was just like, or they just realized later that there is a long queues, especially depends on the country, I hear.
Yeah.
So talk about the wait times and also like the countries or just anything along those lines.
Yeah. So you remember that earlier I was talking about my case and I said, well, there's 2 steps in each of this process, the I-140 step and then adjustment of status or consular. And in my case, it took more or less 1 year for each of them. But those are the processing times from the agency, like how long they take to, take my package, have it somewhere stored, then someone take it, give it to the officer and adjudicate the case. That's only processing time. Because when I did it, we didn't have what we call the Visa Bulletin wait times. So now let's explain what the Visa Bulletin is.
Wait, Oscar, when did you do this before? You want to tell me this bulletin that people are talking about was not there?
Yeah. I mean, in EB2, the Visa Bulletin had no wait time until the end of 2022, November to December 2022. It's pretty recent, and now it looks like it was ages ago. But when I did it, it was always what we call current. It had a C, because the Visa Bulletin is this publication that they issue every month, and there's a couple of tables there. And the tables, like you said, they are divided by countries. You have columns with different countries, and then you have rows for each category of green card: EB1, EB2, EB3. And those tables will tell you if there is a visa immediately available to you, or if there is wait time. And if there is wait time, it will estimate what is that wait time for you. What countries are the countries that suffer the most from waits? India and China. And why does this happen? Because the system is a quota-based system. They have 140,000 approximately green cards per year, and that is for EB1, EB2, all the EBs together. 140,000 for all of them. And then there are quotas. For example, EB1 gets 28%, EB2 28%. But then there are also quotas for each country. So each country can only get 7% of the total green cards, family, and employment every year. So as you can see, there's a lot of rules, there's a lot of quotas, a lot of rules. And that Visa Bulletin, what it does is each month it will tell you, for your country, for your green card category, what is the situation? The best situation is if you go there and you see a letter C. It means current, and that is the case, for example, for EB1 for most countries except India and China right now, as we are recording this. And that was the case for EB2 when I did my process. But then EB2 at the end of 2022 started having a lot of popularity. People found out, okay, this is a very nice category because it's very open to a lot of disciplines and it's not such a high standard like EB1, so more people started applying and more people started getting approvals, and with more approvals there's more people waiting, and that means that the quota is met, and when the quota is met, the agency cannot give you the green card, so you have to keep waiting. And so that wait time increased since 2022, the end of 2022, and now it's sitting at about 20 months of wait time. So now you have the processing times for the 2 steps, so that is always there, but you also have to go from this first step to the second step. You need to have your priority date current. And that means that your priority date is when you send your first step, your I-140. So you get that, imagine that I send the I-140 today, so I get a priority date for December 2024. So then you can only go to that second and last step of the process once the table in the Visa Bulletin allows your date to be current. That's the significance of that Visa Bulletin. I hope it was somewhat clear. It's really complicated, but that's what that table is for, to really tell you, is there a green card for you or not? If there isn't, you have to keep waiting.
Yeah, so I think I know a friend who went through the process, and they were explaining like all these PD, DQ, IL, and the surprising wait time that they did not factor in the equation, and it kind of messed up the work and the family.
It's horrible to see when someone that went through the process, which is unlikely. Usually people, as they start working on their petition, they start becoming familiar with these terms. But some people, they prepare their I-140 package with all the arguments, send it, get approved, and only to find out what is the Visa Bulletin and that they have been approved, but they cannot get the green card soon, because it's not possible. And that's horrible, because like you should know about this when you start, because you have to have that potential timeline in your head. This is such an important, especially if you are in the US, you have to maintain status. You really need to know even the worst case, not even the today's scenario, the worst case scenario. You always have to add a few months just in case things get worse, because you really want to have your valid visa all the way until you can get the green card.
Certainly. Let's talking about wait times and all these things that have been changing. Trump is coming back, and what I hear, especially for immigrants, he's made it clear like immigration is a top priority. And I saw you made a video on that. So summarize for us. It's a pretty popular video, and I think many people are scared and they wanted to hear just like what are people thinking about this. So summarize for us, what does this mean for prospective applicant or for anyone going through the process?
Yeah, so very popular video, the most popular video in the channel, to be honest, because that reflects the reality of the anxiety that a lot of people have with the outcome of the election. Without getting too much into my personal opinion, but the reality is that Trump, like you said, he has had not only a rhetoric of anti-immigration, but he has displayed that in practice because he was president once 8 years ago, right? So we know what he has done, and my job is to try to let all of you know a realistic assessment, not my gut feeling or my ideological position. Is based on what he has done and based on what he said now in this campaign. The news are not positive. That's my main message. Okay. Now, I'm not an oracle. I don't know exactly what he's going to do, especially with Trump, because he's quite erratic also when it comes to government. But in general, what I also want to say is not going to be the end of the world. Okay, we had a Trump presidency. EB2 EB1A survived. I got my green card during the Trump presidency, actually. So not the end of the world, but it is true that processing times, for example, may get longer because for him it's not really a priority to make things smoother for immigrants. And I know some of your audience may be thinking, well, but Oscar, he is anti-illegal immigration, he is pro-merit-based immigration. Well, yeah, he has said that a few times, but in his last term, he made things a little bit slower. He, for example, for people that were on working visas, H visas, he wanted to remove the ability to work for the spouse of the visa holder. He wanted to impose stricter rules for those programs. So I think it is realistic to think that we're not going to see a smooth transition into the Trump presidency, but we'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens. Yeah, and by the way, and I didn't talk about the bans. He imposed travel bans when he was president, which that would affect people applying for a green card, because when you apply from abroad, you don't get the green card until you enter the US. You get a visa stamped in the consulate, and in his first months of presidency, he imposed what it was called the Muslim ban, and that actually affected people that had a green card approved. Later, it was revoked by a court, and I expect those things to happen also in this first year, where he will try to pass something a little bit crazy, and then courts will react. So we'll have to see, okay, how things play out.
For sure, it's a wait and see. Yeah. So hopefully things will be better. Let's talk about Oscar. Let's talk about your YouTube channel. Before you go to your YouTube channel, like the name of your YouTube channel, and I'm curious to know. Like I was telling you, I feel like we don't have a lot of scientists, engineers, STEM people. I might be wrong, but like I feel like we are not here on YouTube a lot, and I think we should be here sharing whatever is and whatever you're passionate about. And so I really admire what you're doing with it, and you will tell us where the passion came from. But maybe before even we go there, is there anything else that we should be touching on now? Because now you are allow me to call you an expert, at least in this online space. Because when I went to YouTube and I was like EB2 YouTube channels, and yours was definitely on top. So. Yeah. Is there something that we forgot to touch on that is important for anyone thinking about this or going through the process?
No, I think we covered all the basics. I think all the important stuff was there.
Okay. Yeah. And yes, and I think this is now perfect time to tell my audience whatever we did actually is summary, because you go really deep. Like you pick one thing and you go really deep in it. Yeah. And so I'll ask my audience to come to your channel. So name your channel, and then I'm curious to know, why did you start it, and how has been the journey in this being a YouTuber a scientist and a YouTuber. I think it's very interesting, and I'm curious to know how that has been.
Yeah, so the channel is Oscar's Greencard. We also have now, since last year, we have a channel in Spanish also, Oscar's Greencard Español. So we try to cover also that part of the population because that's our language. Now I have a partner with me in the channel, Marina. So we work together, and it's more fun also. And the way this started is because when I was at that job where I got my green card in Greenlight, I realized that was a small company, and people were coming to me almost every week or every 2 weeks, and they would come to my desk and say, hey, somebody told me that you apply for this EB2 NIW or you apply for this EB1, so can you tell me more about it? And then I would sit with them, and sometimes for 1, 2, or 3 hours, and I would share all my files. So I started organizing, because I'm not a very organized person like many of us, and so I started organizing everything into nice folders, and I could share them easily. And so I saw, okay, if in a small company like this one, I have so many questions from my colleagues about this topic, imagine in the United States, imagine in the world, how many people out there are wondering how to do this. So I created first the website, not the YouTube channel, and then I said, okay, a good way to deliver this would be videos. And I was about to take a career break, so I decided, okay, this could be a nice project so I don't drive myself crazy when I'm at home without doing much. And that's how it started. It started with 3 subscribers that were my colleagues at that company, and then it started growing really, really quickly. And now we are a not super huge channel, but for the niche is pretty big. And the purpose is to digest this into smaller pieces that are understandable, so people can make the right decision for their situation, which is always different from one profile to the other. And going back to what you said, yeah, there's not enough scientists there talking in these platforms. I think one of the reasons is maybe our being a little bit cliche, maybe we're a little bit on the introvert side or shy in general, and we don't like that exposure. I always liked presenting, for example. I like PowerPoint, so my last job was all about I would be presenting every day, many times a day, so I would have to create presentations really fast, deliver, and at the end, even though I was not the best at communicating, then you start learning tricks, and it's something that I now enjoy, and this allows me to keep doing this in this particular way, which is nice.
No, I love it, and keep doing that, Oscar. Do you have any ambitions for it? What are you hoping to do with the channel, or with because I feel like it's now a business. Like, I don't know if you're thinking of making it like, because it's helping people. So what are your ambitions? Just I know things are dynamic, but like in the next 2 years, 3 years, where do you see this channel or platform going?
So yeah, it started as a hobby. Now we are a small business, and now we are 2 people. I don't think we're going to grow in terms of people, so I want to keep it boutique and in this way that is it's like a very small family. So I don't have the ambition of becoming a larger office or to prepare cases for others or something like that. I just want to keep being useful, and if the channel grows, perfect. If we get to 100,000 and we get the little plaque from YouTube, that would be a fun moment, but no ambition whatsoever. I think as long as we remain useful, I'm happy. As long as we solve problems that people have, I'm really grateful. For example, every month I get a few emails from people that got to the end of the process, got an approval, and they send the message. People that I don't know. Some people are in the course, some people aren't, but they don't have to write. They could just skip that email. I would never learn about it. And the fact that they reach out and they let me know, that's really fulfilling. So yeah, we earn money through the courses, I'm not going to lie. But those moments really is what pays off when you're like, okay, not only with my scientific career I could help people, now doing this different type of job, I can also do something for others.
Certainly. Certainly, and keep doing that. Keep doing that. I loved it. I really love it. And I there is actually a friend who is currently self-petitioning as we speak. Actually, the reason, and so I was like, I'm interviewing Oscar. It's like, what? One Oscar? Like this Oscar? Can I send you the YouTube channel? Just confirm that this is the Oscar you are interviewing. Because literally, I'm just watching his videos and getting guidance from that. So just adding to your testimonies that whatever you're doing is amazing and it's helping
Thank
people.
you.
So you keep doing that.
Thank you, and you too. I will watch your interviews, and I actually subscribe to your channel. I had a few requests from people to collaborate and interview and blah blah. This is the first interview I do because I look at your channel and I thought, this is really cool, and you should keep it up. You're doing a good thing.
Oh, thank you. That is so kind of you, and thank you for creating time, of course. Yeah. So, Oscar, there is. I like. If there is nothing else, let me just ask you one question that I just like to ask anyone who I bring here. So, I also bring people that I look up to, or I feel like they're inspirational and they can inspire my audience. And yes, I know you have a story. Everyone has a story. So, just summarize for us from when you started school. I don't know, just personal life, professional life, until now. I'm sure you never thought you would start these kind of business now or endeavor. I'm sure you were thinking of being a scientist and being a senior scientist and all that. I'm guessing. But like, what is one lesson you've learned in life through all these what can I call kind of like turns and junctions and journey through life?
I think the lesson, one of the lessons I learned is that you need to be open to anything that will come, because you never know. If you asked me 3 years ago that I would be sitting here with you talking about this topic, and with the logo of the company that I now have and the YouTube channel and all that, I would say you're crazy. That's not me. But you have to be open and embrace the opportunities that come, and also, like I said earlier, the tools that are given to you, because at the end, we became a tool, and we have tools to help others. So if you can give back in some way, even if it's through a business, take that opportunity and do it. This was never my dream, so I'm not going to send you the message of follow your dreams, blah blah. Maybe in other parts of my life I could tell you that, but here this was never expected at all. It just happened. So my advice for your audience is be open and go with the flow if the flow takes you to somewhere positive.
Be open and go with the flow. I love it, because I think I'm also learning to do that, because I've been a rigid person for long time, and I'm trying to embrace and flow with life. So be open and embrace the flow. I love it. Yeah. Thank you, Oscar. And if you have any last word for my audience, and then we will close it there. But thank you so much for coming.
The word I have is on this green card topic is, if you are interested, start early. That goes for you also, Gladys. Start looking into this. Don't let it just don't put it in the back burner. Just be proactive. You need to take the future into your own hands. So, and that's it. Thank you so much for what you do and for having me today.
Thank you, Oscar. And I forgot when we were mentioning about your channel. If people want to, because I know some of my audience might want to contact you, what would be the best way to contact you? Is it through the website?
Yeah, we have a contact form in the website. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. So I'll put your website address on my description box, and then people will contact you through the contact form. Thank you, Oscar, and goodbye.
Take care.